I know a Lutheran pastor is not supposed to say this, but I hate Sue Ellen Jones. More about that later. Let's see if we can put this parable, this difficult and troubling parable, in perspective. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, and I'm coming off a vacation, so give me a break here, folks. But let's just say, for the sake of an argument, that I own a peach orchard. And it's peach picking time. So I go out and I say to you folks, the choir and from Lynette over, group number 1, I want you to pick peaches in my orchard. And I want you to start at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and pick till 5. And the going rate is $100, and I'll pay you $100. Then I go out about noon, and from Lynette over to Nathan, going straight back, group number 2, noon. I want you to pick peaches in my orchard, and I'll pay you what's right. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, from Nathan over, I come to you all and say, bunch of lazy buggers, I want you to go into my, pick peaches too. So now it's 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon and y'all want to be paid. So I come to you and I say to you, you worked 1 hour, I'm going to give you $100. You happy? That's pretty cool. And then I come to you and I say to you all, I'm going to give you $100. You happy? Bunch of Lutherans. And then I come over to you and I say to you all, I'm going to give you $100. You happy? No. Bunch of capitalists. Let me say 4 things about this story that need to be said. Number 1 is Jesus could have fixed the story and saved all this belly aching. You know how? He could have paid you first. If he'd have paid you $100 and you'd have gone off, you'd have never known what he paid these people, and there would have been no problem. Second thing about this story that's really, really important is that, you know, it's God's peach orchard in the first place. And God can do with it what God chooses. You remember that story in Genesis 2 about God creating the world and sending it off to Adam and Eve and saying, Adam and Eve, you can do anything in the garden except what? Eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't do that. Why did God set it up that way? Because he could. It's his garden. It's his world. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Number 3, there's that statement at the end of this story, do you begrudge my generosity? And the honest answer is, you bet your life we do. I mean, it's one thing to hand out God's grace to people who deserve it. I mean, Miriam Whetstone, she's a wonderful lady. I can understand why God showers Miriam Whetstone with grace. But John Whetstone, I mean, doesn't it stick in your craw that God loves John Whetstone that much? The 4th thing we need to say about this text is that we usually think of ourselves as group number 1. That we're hard-working, center-cut, cream-of-the-crop Christians who deserve God's grace. We've earned God's grace, at least more than John Whetstone has. You see, folks, what you think of this parable depends on what group you're in. If you're in group one, equal pay for unequal work doesn't work. And people getting God's grace who don't deserve it is troubling. But if you're in group three, and God gives you a whole day's wage for 1 hour, God showers you with more than you can possibly dream, that's good news. Can I ask you all a question? Have you ever been the one nobody wanted? Have you ever been the last person picked? I hate Sue Ellen Jones. It was the 6th grade. We moved in the middle of the year, and I went to this class in the middle of the year, and I had no friends. And I was short, and I was fat, and my hair stuck out to here, and I was about the least liked kid in this class. And then one day they decided they wanted to have a softball game, and they picked up teams. And they had the 2 most popular boys in the class being the team captains. And so they did the picking. And the first one was picked was Ted Sproul. And then there was Buster White. And then there was Charlie Connery. And then there was Dave Yingling. And on and on and on. And the picking continued until all that was left was me and 15 girls. And it was Mike Humbert's pick. And you know who he picked? I hate Sue Ellen Jones. Do you know what it's like to be a 6th grade boy and passed over for a girl? Maybe it's like those vineyard workers who stood idle at the 11th hour because nobody wanted them, nobody needed them, nobody cared. Maybe they were the leftover fat kids who had no job and no team and no friends. Maybe they were the new kid in the school who in a crowded cafeteria had to eat his lunch alone. Maybe they were the recently divorced person who feels like a 5th wheel because most of their friends are still married. Maybe they're the visitor at worship who nobody welcomes. Maybe they're the homeless person who slept last night on a storm vent because nobody noticed. Have you ever been the last person picked? If you have, then this story is sheer grace. It's about a God who stays behind long after the beautiful people have been picked and said to the leftovers, I need you. There's a place for you in my vineyard. Kingdom of heaven's like that, Jesus says. There's a place for you, whoever you are. And it's a place of hope, and it's a place of healing, and it might be the only home any of us ever have. And in that place, I picture a throne room and a dining hall. And in the middle of the dining hall, there is a head table. And on the head table, there are reservation cards with Judy's name on it, and Dan's name on it, and Freddie's name on it, and John's name on it, and Mark's name on it, and everybody's name on the list. You all been welcomed. Unless, of course, you begrudge his generosity.